library, you know, even in a regular year, a quote-unquote normal year, some of the questions that are kind of put upon you from either teachers all sending them without telling you, or just sort of out of the blue questions. It's there's such a huge platform of databases here. It's very difficult to be able to stay up on all of them. And when you get thrown for a loop for different questions, hopefully today we can kind of group databases and talk about them in a way that might kind of help you when you get those kinds of questions and things thrown your way. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we have 12 of us here. I'm just checking to see if there's anybody else possibly coming in. No, not at the moment. Great. Whoops, sorry, I spoke too soon. Let me admit one more person here. Just trying to move these little screens so I can see you. See you all, and also drive this thing. So what I'd like to do, I'm going to kind of show you if a lot of our conversation, since there are only 12 of us, we could attempt to just unmute microphones. Some of it I am going to just ask you to respond in chat, some of these questions. But I certainly want you to just jump in and ask if you want to put any questions at any point in chat. There may be some questions that you have had that you're just curious. Is there anything offered in the Discus databases for this scenario or that scenario? So please feel free. This is for you today. So I have my spiel, but it's not my dog and pony show. This is about what you're going to walk away with. And I want to make sure you walk away with something you can definitely use there. So let me jump. Sorry, I am so sorry about this. I see more people trying to get in. I'll quickly try to grab them and see where they are. New participants. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move along to this next slide. One thing I would like for you all to do is just hover over, if you're familiar with the Zoom, to hover over and go to the end where it says more to access the chat, because the first question I would like to ask of you is, do you use Discus databases often? Are there some that, do you use it often, seldom? Are any of you new to Discus? I've had a lot of people, well, teachers in fact, that have moved from North Carolina or other states and they're just not familiar with it at all. So I'd like to kind of get a feel with where you all are, so that the time that I spend with you, I can target. I'm not going to just be preaching to the choir about things you already know, but I can really kind of gear it toward you. Okay, so we've got a couple of news. Oh my, okay, Emily, you are jumping in feet first there. Okay, Marie, thank you. Okay. Part of the exposure that I want to try to give you all today, not a lot, yeah. But you all have so much. I mean, at the public libraries, and it's such a vast difference between the different systems.
Okay. All right, bye.
There is such a vast difference between your different systems as far as other resources that you offer in addition to these. But this is kind of a quick and dirty little overview of what we have now. We have about 50 databases for pre-K through 12th grades. They are able to access them from home, from school. We also direct them to the public libraries and just let them know that they would need their library card and a different form of access. I'm going to mute everybody for now, and when we want to open up for a discussion where we can talk all again, I'll let you all unmute. So you can see that we do, at the state library, we do try to support both the media specialists and the public librarians support for your patrons and the students, and we try to help facilitate a lot of times through our Discus Help Desk how they access which, because they kind of get confused with that, as you all probably have discovered as well. There is integration with Google and Microsoft, and I wanted to show you a few of these primarily because if you're helping someone maybe remotely, maybe you're providing remote reference service to a parent who's struggling to find something, or maybe you're actually at the library and you get a student started, but you want to make sure that they're going to be able to pick up where you left off, showing them something. So I'm going to show you some different tools that integrate as well. There. And this is just something I mentioned at the bottom with the state standards. That's always a big issue with the schools. One of the nice things about the Discus databases that you don't necessarily get whenever you Google for something is a lot of tie-ins to the state standards. So, if it's just kind of a nice, more of a guarantee that this is going to be a good resource for that student that you're referring them back to. So I had already sort of asked you all initially how familiar or how often you use the Discus databases. Are there any that you have, if you'll respond in chat here as well, are there any that you all use as a go-to that you do use often? I know Learning Express Library is one that I often hear just in general with the public library. But if there are some that you do, one that you are familiar with, many of you indicated in the chat that you aren't as familiar with a lot of the databases. One thing I would suggest you do when you have that proverbial spare time to do this is just take one topic, and that's one of the things we're going to do today. Just take one topic and search, through several elementary databases or whatever that it might actually apply to, and kind of get a feel for the different depth of content you get, videos, etc. Just exposing yourself that way as you go along through it, and just get real familiar with one search in various databases, and then start familiarizing yourself with one resource, and then kind of building on that. That way, it's just not so overwhelming, because it's overwhelming to the teachers and the students as well. So I'm going to look quickly at your responses there in chat. Teach homeschooling parents, yes, okay. Seldom use it, or okay, you're in an academic library. I can tell you, Heather, with that, one of the things I'm finding is a lot of the academics are asking, the education programs are asking for a lot of Discus support, because they're going to be sending their students out and to do their internships and their practice teaching and that kind of thing. So that is a definite application for you there. So let's go ahead. I only have a few slides to start off because I do want to go live. As you all know, you all actually access these from a different platform than scdiscus.org. Many of you do, because you have your own combination of, pardon me, let's see if I can turn that off. You have your own combination of websites where you have, already listed out your children's services or teen services related databases and that kind of thing. So obviously you would be typically using them from your public library, but I would like to expose you to what the children are seeing in school, so that if they refer to something that you're not really sure what in the world they're talking about, you can kind of see what is that similar database that would be on your site, but just located in a different place. So let's go ahead and look, just for those of you that are brand spanking new, and those of you that just haven't had a time to look at these things in a while. We do have pre-K through 12th grades and into academic as well. But we have research articles, magazines, newspapers, journals. I won't read the whole list there. You're able to see most of these: images, charts, diagrams, videos. So you might encounter, a third grader who's just trying to do a living book report, and she's wanting to learn, all about maybe Clara Barton of the American Red Cross, and she wants to know how she dressed and what her time period was, what was going on during that time period, those kinds of things. So you might have someone that's just asking for information about Clara Barton, but it ends up, oh, it's not just one little biography, but she really needs more in depth because she's going to be using it for that living book report. So you can kind of ask, once you do that initial reference interview piece with them, just to try to get a little more information from them, so that will also help you decide, oh, is this database better than that one? And you can certainly tweak it as you go, because it's sometimes hard to get the information out of a patron, as you know. Up front, they don't realize how much, the more they tell you, the better you'll be able to serve them. But yeah, so these are some of the information that you're going to find. The nice thing about it is that they are not going to have any ads to deal with. They're not going to have to bother with a YouTube video waiting for the, to skip ads. They're going to have a lot of the source citations. That becomes a big issue. I've noticed even from 3rd grade on up, they're already teaching them to cite your sources, cite your sources. So that's some of the things that you're going to find to be an advantage to you in helping homeschool students, public school, private school, even in doing any of your own programming. If you want to add a little session about it for parents, etc. It's good to know these things. These are some of the things that are also available. We talk a lot about accessibility and differentiation between some of the different patron needs. So you're going to find in most of the databases, they're going to have read aloud options for the text, for the articles, for the books. You're going to find transcripts for a lot of the videos. And other pieces that can also kind of help you if you see that one of your patrons is in need of a little bit more to utilize that content. I wanted to speak first to Tutor.com because this was actually purchased when all the schools shut down. Lisa Aiken, as you know, our library director, she purchased this through September 30th for K through 12th graders. Many of you may already be familiar with this resource because many of the public libraries, or several, I won't say many, but several of the public libraries already had an actual subscription to this. But I want to mention this first because we are at the agency actually looking at extending this. There is no official word on it or any contract signed, but that's the hope, because this is a big support once school is closed, for the day, and there aren't really people around that are accessible. Tutor.com, and I'll show you live in a moment too, actually allows the student to interact with a tutor in a live format online. So if they are struggling with a math problem or maybe a grammar issue or something they're trying to do with their homework, there are live tutors that will interact with these students. They do not have to have an account, and I'll go into the details with this later. They do not have to have an account to use this free tutoring service, but they would need an account if they want to submit a paper to be reviewed, or if they want to submit a math problem to be explained and reviewed and sent back to them. So I'll tell you all those details in a moment. But the reason I wanted to mention this, math was the biggest piece that was used. Those tutors were used the most from March until recently. And this is a great place for you to reference, because once it sort of comes out of your purview, you've shown them resources, you showed them how to interact with them, but they really need to have help. And you know that you kind of don't want to go there. You don't want to kind of get into that situation of, well, that's not really the boundaries within the youth services, but you would have this to refer them to. And I would say particularly your parents, because the parents, it's best that they know about this. So if that's something you all can market as well. It is located on the Discus platform at scdiscus.org from our A to Z list, which you'll see in a moment with our tabs. That's where it currently lives, and it's also accessible from our grade level tabs, which I'll show you that piece in a moment as well. I'm going to check here. Let me check one thing. Okay, we've got that. Excellent. So this is from our scdiscus.org page. This is how we have the navigation piece. So this is what your student may or may not be familiar with. If they've already seen it at school, they may be used to this kind of layout. Again, many of you have yours listed out just with your youth services page or teen services. And you can see here that there are a variety of resources that go from your just sort of base, like Animal Kingdom. You have these habitats and just like a broad sort of database that is related to animals and what they do. This is a Britannica database. Britannica Elementary is going to cover a lot of Britannica's proprietary information. So some of you will recall the old Britannica Encyclopedia. So they actually have content generators of teachers and other folks who write content for their Britannica articles. But then they also have videos and images and other pieces for the students to interact with. Culturegrams is another piece. I know when I was at Charleston earlier in the year and the end of last year, we talked a lot about culturegrams. This is a very robust database that really services K through 12. This is going to be valuable to you when you have students asking about maps, or they're doing, you know, maybe they've all been sent home to explore a country, or to find out, you know, what kinds of food and dress people in a particular country, or perhaps South Carolina. You've got those that are going to be looking for information about South Carolina, regions, places, people, comfort foods, etc. You're going to find that in your culturegrams also. The DK Eyewitness books, this is something that I will caution you about because we do have access to it in Credo reference from the Discus Credo reference. Some of you will have the Credo reference public core database instead of the one that includes the children's. So that might be something that you'll need to check on your own listing to see if you have DK Eyewitness ebooks in your Credo reference. And I'll show you those, but I'll just give you that little caution. There are two actual interfaces that you can use on Discus for the elementary, middle, and high that allow the students to search more than one database. And this is what would be, I need to try to just turn this thing off. I'm so sorry. I can't seem to get it to mute or turn off here. I'm sorry for this distraction. I'm going to go pitch this in it somewhere. Let me see if I can stick it under something. Sorry about that. Hopefully, I'll be quiet. There we go. I am very sorry about that, you guys. So what I wanted to show you is the Explora for elementary schools and the Discus Kids are two places they can search across several of these databases instead of just searching one at a time. So if it's not a kind of question where you just need a quick flag and you want to go in and out of culturegrams, or you need maybe a video about Ghana or another country, if it's actually something that they're wanting to see several different kinds of information from different resources, and I guess the easiest way for me to explain that is through your like more of a Google-esque kind of search. That's going to be where you use Explora and your Discus Kids for that. You all have your own discovery. Many of the public libraries have their own discovery widgets through EBSCO, and that would be what you could show them, obviously, from the public library angle. And then as you see at the bottom, toward the bottom, we do have the Novelist K through 8 plus for you, for collection development, for recommendations on books, you know, those kinds of things. So if you're just doing reader's advisory and you want to help some of the younger kids locate books and there are similar to series they've read and that kind of thing. That's probably one that you all are more familiar with, that allows you to do that as well. So these are the elementary ones that we have. This is just a snapshot of some of the databases for your, I would say your 5-year-olds on up through 10, 11-year-olds before they start middle school. Tumblebooks, Learn 360, and World Almanac are 3 of those databases. Smart Search Kids is the one that I was mentioning, that you can actually conduct a search within and be able to pull from several different sources. So if they conduct a search in Smart Search Kids, they're going to be actually searching across the primary search, EBSCO's primary search for children, encyclopedias. You can see this one comes from the primary search database, the second one that you see there. The first one comes from Britannica Online. So for those kids that are maybe more advanced and they want to be able to search across more databases, that is an option for them there. I'm going to pause just a minute and check the chat and ask you if you have any questions about anything I've said thus far. Please put those in. Ashley has said she recommends Tumblebooks on a regular basis, and they also use the Novelist for Reader's Advisory. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good. And if you have a question about something you've seen, I don't want to rattle off and get too far ahead. So if there's any questions that you have as we go, then please do put them there. Just wanted to show you that once a student is able to click on that PDF file there for like the water cycle, if that's what they're looking for, they are able to do a lot of saving to Google Drive and other linking and uploading options. So again, that piece that I mentioned at the beginning, where you want to be able to follow through with that patron and know that once they get home, they're going to be able to pick up, you know, where they left off and not wonder where did I find that and kind of start all over. Those download options are going to be useful to you there. Middle school, I notice our list advances here. We've got a longer list. There are over 25 of the databases that are grouped together that really fit your you know, upper level elementary 6th, 7th, 8th graders there. And I'm going to highlight a couple of those for you just to kind of show you what is available there also. Some of these are included. So instead of Britannica Elementary, we now have Britannica Middle School. We also still have Culturegrams. We've added our History Reference Center, our Science Reference Center to that to sort of break that grade level down and those questions. This is one of the databases that we'll look at today. The World Almanac for Kids is actually a great place if you have a parent or a child asking about, they've got to write some kind of pro-con paper. Maybe they need to take an issue and they're learning how to write and support the pro side of an issue, the con side of an issue. This World Almanac for Kids is great for that kind of question, because it's really geared towards something they would be interested in. So for instance, there are kinds of topics, or, you know, who should control what's in a school lunch, and should kids get a weekly allowance, and those kind of things that the topic would be interesting to them at their developmental levels, versus a topic like, you know, something for more high school, like sanctuary cities, or, you know, stem cells and those kind of things that end up being just way over their heads. So this is kind of a neat place to start. It's called Take a Stand within World Almanac for Kids if you have a question such as that. If you have a student who is more advanced, such as a high school student, that, you know, they're struggling to find some topic that they can, you know, they've been told, you know, choose a topic and then write a paper about the 2 different sides of the issue. this Gale in Context Opposing Viewpoints would be a great go-to place because it lists a lot of the issues there that that they would be able to you know, kind of get a good start with. Smart Search is now the other discovery tool that we have linked from Discus, the SC Discus page, that is more for your middle school through high. So we had the Discus Kids Smart Search for the younger ones, and we have the more advanced Smart Search for your middle and high schoolers there. When they conduct a search, it's going to be, the search results are going to look very similar. But they're also going to be, again, pulling from different databases, the ebook collection there, the Business Source Premier collection there. And when they open their articles, they're also going to have those options to save to Google Drive, to email a link to it to themselves, and to actually pull up the source citation for it. So that's one of the things that makes your patrons, it makes it so much easier than the internet when they're searching for some of the materials they need for their reports, presentations, group projects, that kind of thing, because they're able to go ahead and save it, have it, and then when they get home, all they need to do is open that Google Drive to be able to utilize that. So here is our list of Discus resources for high school. Again, some of the ones that we've added to this are Academic Search Premier. You might have a student, many of the high schools are requiring scholarly journal articles instead of just magazine articles. Those are much more difficult to find in an open Google search because a lot of the information is published and you would actually have to pay to access it on the internet to actually still be at a level that the high school student could read it. So the Academic Search Premier is a great go-to if they're told find a journal article on, you know, robotics, because many of them are doing robotics programs and they're supposed to actually do, for their state competition, they're supposed to actually have something that is more a research piece to go along with the robot that they're building, those kinds of things. So that's how we've kind of expanded that out. The Learning Express library that you see on the top right, many of you may already be aware of that just because of for career use there at the public libraries, but there is the SAT, the ACT, and the military test, the ASVAB, are there as practice models that some of your high school students would find of interest. Certainly your parents, it's great for your parents to know about the SAT and the ACT practices that are there. I wanted to also mention Bloom's literature. If you ever get a question about, you know, Maya Angelou, or, you know, questions that many times you have reference books. In the past, Gale published a lot of the contemporary criticism books that you all may already be familiar with. But the Bloom's literature is a great place there just for the high school level student to be able to locate information about authors, their works, to be able to access the full text of a lot of the literature classics like Charles Dickens and those kinds of pieces. So that's kind of an overview of kind of up the grade level piece there to kind of show you the variety of what you're going to find. I did want to point out that the Shakespeare Center is part of that Bloom's literature that also helps give an overview of Macbeth, or you know, characters, maybe they're trying to understand a play in Macbeth. There are also videos within that Shakespeare Center. So if they're having trouble understanding a play, you know, once the teachers turn them loose and they come to you all, or their parents or asking you all about them, you all could be actually a very critical piece of their understanding for them to be able to watch a scene out of one of the plays, or view that, so that they are now kind of understanding, you know, more outside of school what they need for that kind of support. Credo reference is the one that I mentioned about DK Eyewitness. There are over 900 reference books here. They're specialized reference books. They are primarily for middle and high schoolers, but also your younger students could utilize those with those DK Eyewitness books that I mentioned. I'm going to quickly look in chat here. Shannon uses opposing viewpoints often. Brain Pop asked the Brain Pop one, yes. Yes, those are very good, and they're certainly being used a lot more in this virtual environment as well. So you can see within Credo Reference, there are a couple of excellent features there that help. Many times, as you know, as librarians and staff, you know that you kind of get sometimes involved with a parent or a student when they are in tears. It's the last minute, this thing is due tomorrow, what can I do about this kind of thing. The Credo reference books can provide a lot of quick ready reference kinds of answers that can help them. It can also provide good overviews of topics. So like in the search on DNA, for instance, it will actually provide this map tool that will allow them to break down the different concept, like the sub-concepts within a topic. So if they're looking at, you know, DNA here, or they're trying to understand communism, or get their head wrapped around a concept and where to begin, these will help you and them sort of break out, you know, an event, key events, key people, key things that happen in battles, that kind of thing, just to help give them a starting point whenever they're sort of the deer in the headlights looking for assistance from you. So first question, where would a teenager find a summary of Macbeth? So what would that be with what we've just shown you here? If you want to respond in chat there. See who has the fastest finger to respond in chat. Great. Great. Thank you, Madison. Yes, Bloom's Lit, you're both right, and it's important to remember both of those. That way, if you have a patron that comes in and says, I need to access that Shakespeare Center, and you're going, what are you talking about? You'll know that it actually lives in Bloom, so you'll know where to sort of begin with that piece also there. So I'm going to now go live. I think I had another question for you there that will be relevant whenever we come back to that. But first I need to show you how to do that. I'm going to jump out of that sharing screen, and I'm going to go live now to actually show you the Discus site itself so that you can see. Oops, I need to stop this share first. Let's just go live here for you all to see the layout of it. Some of you may be familiar with it because I know that some of the public libraries actually link to this. They don't actually have their own websites. So, but you'll see across the top that A to Z list that I mentioned first when we were talking about Tutor.com. That's going to be our alphabetical listing that's very similar to your alphabetical listing by subjects and such at your library. But the Tutor.com is found here on the right-hand side. That's where they would access that. You'll see the A to Z sections here. One feature that I wanted to show you that we have added is the tutorial slider on the far right that actually gives them, you know, a quick little minute or less kind of overview of some of these databases. This might be a good place for you to start if you want to get familiar yourself with some of these. They're just really quick to sort of say, this is an overview of what it contains, and these are some quick ways to get started searching them. So that's all linked from our academic A to Z list. I'm sorry, our A to Z list here on our page. Other tools that students may know about or be familiar with is if they click on the words such as Animal Kingdom here on the left, that will tell them a little bit about what's in the database as well, just from our site. Grade level is what I've kind of broken out for you in a slide so that you can see whichever grade level that we actually work with here. I do have another chat question that I'd like for you to respond to there in chat, and that is what age level do you get the most questions from typically in a normal year? If you could tell me kind of what age level do you get more from your elementary student, your children, your your parents for pre-K to 2? What kind of typically whenever you have students that you're working with after school or that come in with a question, so elementary, okay, and Heather's University, 3rd, middle school kids and parents, those are the main ones for you, okay? So I'm going to actually start out then going into a little more detail with the children's part. So we'll look at a little bit of pre-K through 5 grade levels, which are going to be like your 4-year-olds up through your 10, 11-year-olds there. That you might be serving. And since that's the majority, again, I wanted to mention to you again, Heather, that this is really good stuff for you, for those that are going into elementary education, if you have that program at your university. So in looking at the elementary and early childhood here, there is also a link to that tutor.com here. If we do get to purchase a more long-term access, we're going to make that more prominently listed on the page here. But you can see for our early childhood, someone has mentioned Brain Pop Junior there. That's one of the ones that your children probably will be familiar with, Moby the robot there. But the Brain Pop Junior and the Learn 360 have just a lot of great resources for the early childhood learner. And in addition to some of the storybooks that you all are more familiar with, probably with your Tumble books. But these are good also to think about for your library programming. If you do want to say, virtual resources for parents and you want to do a little program there, these are things that you can certainly show them as well. So within BrainPop Junior, as we look here, some of the key pieces that you're going to find, first of all, it's very easily navigated by a young child. So that's very helpful if they have their own device. To be able to, anything that you show them virtually or in person, they would be able to take home and use easily. This is actually going to be strictly movies as far as the content. So students aren't, or the children that you serve aren't going to find, articles or images for a PowerPoint or those kinds of things in this database. They're going to be finding, really coming here to actually learn about some new topics, but learn about it in a video format. So like for instance, this might be something more, again, that your parents might be asking about. But like if we go into the science videos here, into this collection, you'll see that they're easily broken out by topics. And as you hover over them, the child could hear animals, plants, etc. The sound on and off button at the top will control that. So you can, if you're actually showing something and you don't want it to be, pronouncing everything every time you move your mouse, you can turn that off. But they can either search BrainPop Junior directly at the top, or they can do these little hierarchies here with the different little buckets within something. So if we go into matter, for example, each one of the videos are going to follow the same layout. So once you've seen one, you're going to be able to see everything that's available to them on that. So for instance, if they are learning about matter, in school. They're learning about water and how things change form and those kinds of things, and go into one of the videos here. You're going to find that Moby is the main character in each of these videos, so they like that consistency because they're familiar seeing that main robot character. But you can see there are also these additional pieces that help them to learn their information, retain their information. There's a little easy quiz, a hard quiz. There are maps and games there that can be found. So these are all going to relate to this one movie. So again, if you're doing a programming piece, in the library and you want to integrate one of these, you would be able to do that with the topic also as you're showing parents or the children about them. So you can see they have the write about it, draw about it, and these are all interactive tools that you could show the parent. That they're actually going to be able to respond to questions that the vendor has provided, such as what's your favorite liquid, does it have a container, and then get started with something where they can actually draw. They can, if they want to draw a bottle of Coke or something over here, pardon my terrible drawing, but they can actually interact and draw their piece, and they're able to then print out what they draw. So they can sort of respond to those questions, and the parent can actually give them another kind of question from the movie that might apply as well there. So we have a drink here, we have water here, and then they can use the pencils to draw, or if they want to be able to spell the word water, that kind of thing. So that's going to be useful there as well. Hopefully those of you who are parents or have nieces and nephews, children around, some of this overview will also help them, help you if you have people in your family that you want to share these out with. I was trying to remember which of you had mentioned using BrainPop. If you want to share something there in chat, if you haven't already, if you want to share something about how you have used these in the public library to support those users, that would be great, because that would be a nice practical application for those of you who have mentioned BrainPop Junior. There is a print notebook here where you can show the parent that at home they have a little notepad paper where they can kind of write down notes as they go along. If they want to write down keywords that Moby says or something that they see they're able to do that also. And let's see, get out of this. Then you're going to also see there's always a transcript for each video there. So if you want to check really quickly to see if this would address your patron's question, you can just kind of view that transcript before you even bother going into load the video, if you want to kind of support or help them there. So they have all of these different activities that they can do. These are activities that you could pull into some of your programming as well. If you want, you're doing something on a topic, or you're doing maybe a maker space kind of little activity and you want to introduce something, you could use these for that as well. Notice for each video there's always a lesson idea section. So those are pieces that are good actually in the school environment for lesson plans and that kind of thing within BrainPop Junior. And then you can also, like I said, search directly on something. So, even if a young child is studying about pronouns and maybe they're getting confused, or they don't really know a lot about the pronouns. And this one, I don't see an actual video that says pronouns itself, but you could pull up a video and, like I say, look through that transcript to see if it addresses pronouns within the video. You can also just go back out to that main page and do your navigation. So you could do reading and writing and see what options are available there. So we have, phonics, sentence building, words, etc. So you could actually browse those topics to see what is available for the students there, or the patrons that are asking you about these things. Then it may not be, you know, a student with an assignment. It may just be a parent saying, you know, my child is struggling with understanding commas, and you could, you know, bring that piece out and highlight that for them as well. Let's see what we had in the chat. You all can read there in the chat what Madison has brought forward, a kind of one of her scenarios that kind of helps get them involved there. So that's the Brain Pop Junior. That is for grades K through 2nd grade. So that's going to be your 5-year-olds, you know, on up to like your 7-year-olds there that might ask questions and need assistance. I'm going to go back down to the elementary to show you a couple of other pieces. Some of you may already be familiar with Kids Infobits. That is an elementary database that from Gale that has actually changed its title. At the end of May, they changed it from Kids Infobits to Gale in Context Elementary. And they made it much easier to search. So if any of you are familiar with Kids Infobits, you're going to see this looks very different. If you've never heard of that before, you're in for some great stuff, because this can really help you help those young children as well. Because this is a great, now it's much more easily navigated than it was in the past. It kind of follows that same layout like your Brain Pop Junior, where the student could easily see the animals or the plants or the science related piece or the social studies there. There's a great layout of this information, and one of the best things especially homeschool parents appreciate is they aren't out on the open web. They're able to actually concentrate and focus on what they're looking up or what they're really interested in learning about without having to filter a lot of websites and such. There is also that feature that I mentioned in Brain Pop Junior here, the sound off and on. So as they hover over these, they can be pronounced for them as well. But one thing that I wanted to show you that is going to be true in our elementary, middle, and high school Gale databases is a really neat highlight and notes feature that you see over here on the right. And this can help you, as I say, if you're helping someone at night and they're going to work on it when they get right away when they get home, they're able to save their information with these highlights and notes. And I'm going to show you that in this database and just let you know it will apply to Gale in Context Biography and Gale in Context Opposing Viewpoints as well. So all 3 of those databases will allow you to do this highlights and notes. So if you have a student who is maybe going to report out on a person, maybe they're going to do a live book report biography, they want to go into people here, for instance, they're going to be able to continue to search within the different buckets of people. Are scientists inventors? That's going to be a question that you all have often if you don't already. You know, I'm supposed to come up with an inventor. I'm supposed to tell about an inventor. Actors, artists, athletes, etc. here. But what you can actually do to help them is, if they have, many of them are from Google schools, so they're already used to using Google, or if the parent has a Google Drive, a Google account, or a Microsoft account, they're going to be able to save that information. So if the parent is there and you can show them this piece, it can sure save a lot of headaches for them once they get home. So once they click on their scientists and inventors or whatever their topic is here, they can get an overview of the topic and then be able to kind of check out the different people that are available here within their inventors choices and pieces. So if they're looking at George Washington Carver here, for instance, they're going to get an overview from Gale that's going to tell them in general who this man was, quick facts about him, And then as you see toward the bottom, you're going to also have other kinds of information. So if they're told, you know, you need to find information from 2 different sources, this is great because they're able to actually pull something from a biography or a magazine. If they need an image of them, etc., these are all pieces that they're going to be able to share real easily. So for instance, in Story Monsters Inc. Here, if we open up this magazine article, you know, maybe they're supposed to show biographical information about the person that they're going to be in the live book report. And maybe they need to have information about what that person did. So in this one is, looks like it's just a book review about this book called George Washington Carver for Kids. So you can see that wouldn't be very useful for them at that point. So you could go back to your list here, maybe view more magazines or more biographies to get an idea of other resources that would be better for them to see. Notice when you click on the magazines, there are filters over here. So if you wanted to make sure you didn't pull up just a book review like we just did, you can actually filter those magazines to just brief articles. So that way you're not going to pull up something that they couldn't really use. It's just going to now be those filters filtering by the document type. There you can do publication date, subject, content level, etc. And you'll see here that now the student would be able to actually read a whole article about it rather than just a book review. Whoops, it looks like that one didn't sort because that's what the very first one was in applying my filters. Let me pull down something here. I'm just going to go down to Boy's Life as an example for you to see this. So I'm not thinking that things are loading right because these articles typically are pretty robust. So just so that I don't spend a lot of time over there, I'm going to actually go back to all content types and just jump into a biography so that you all can see. Let's see if I can revise this here. Just going to go all the way back out to where I was with my search results to begin with. I'm going to jump into one of these articles for you just to show you what the student can do while you're working with them. So if they're supposed to find out biographical information and they wanted to refer to this in a writing, they could highlight the biographical information in yellow and make any notes that they want to say, add to my project, for instance. They can make any notes there. And then whenever they actually want to report out on what he contributed as an inventor, here, this would be like highlighted in green. So these are contributions. These are things that he invented or contributed through his knowledge and studies, etc. So once they do those highlights, they're able to then go up and send those out. So they can send them to their OneDrive or their Google Drive or their email. So if you have a parent, you've already helped them locate the information, but they've kind of marked it up so that when they get home, it'll be very easy to tell what they have there. You can have them email that article and what they've written on it to themselves, or they can actually pull it up in their Google Drive. I'm just going to jump into my Google Drive for you to be able to see that. And then whenever they get home, they're going to be able to see that in their Google Drive. So if I go here and just jump into my Google Drive from home. Let's say I've worked with you in the library or virtually over the internet watching you show me how to do this. I want to be able to find it again. I would just open my Drive or my Microsoft OneDrive, and then I would just look for that. Let's see if I can go back into my Drive here. I would just look for that in the folder that Gale is going to put on their drive. So it's going to be easy for them to locate it once they get home. There. Let's see. Let me just refresh this here. So all of these, I'm sorry I have so many other examples and all this stuff, but I was going to try to find my folders. Let's see if I can find them here. I think the problem was I was logged into this. I was actually logged into State Library here instead of my Google Drive. Let me see if I can get this straight here for you guys. So they definitely want to be in their Google Drive when they do this, but shoot, I wanted to show you all this. Let's see if I can get out of the state one. I'm just going to sign out of everything here and sign back in. That ought to get it for us. Okay, now let me see if I go back to our article here and I go to send that again to Google Drive. I promise you all that it isn't this difficult. It's just that I was accidentally in the wrong Google Drive when I sent it the first time. So let's see. Now if I refresh here, it should be something familiar. Yes, so this is what they'll actually see when they first go into their Google Drive. They'll see Gale in Context Elementary, which is where their article was. And then whenever they click on that folder, that's when they're going to see what they've recently added. So this is the George Washington Carver article. And it's going to actually load the article, all of their highlights that they made about the person and what he contributed, and then any of the notes that they made there. So that's something, especially those of you that are working with homeschool families, that could be very useful for you to share out to them using their Google Drive or their Microsoft OneDrive. And then they also, again, have that option that you saw to actually email it, email that link to themselves if that's easier for them as well, because you're going to have, obviously different patrons are going to have different access to those kinds of things. The other part I wanted to mention is all of our databases have citation tools with them. This one is just a little quotation mark icon, but that can make it very useful for them. Again, to be able to say, this is where I found my information, and easier for you as well. So they're not trying to look back something they had up on the internet piece for that. So that's kind of more elementary level there. The content is the same as Kids Infobits. They've just changed up that interface a good bit there. I wanted to show you another resource is the Gale in Context Biography. This is very useful, again, for just very thorough information about people. Let's say you have a patron that comes in and says, I need to find information about a mathematician. I'm supposed to look up a mathematician, and they don't have a name of one, but they're struggling to find one, you can click on the Browse People there in Gale in Context Biography and actually view the whole list of all the people that are here. Or you can go in and find specifics such as mathematicians, here we have medical notables, inventors, we have educators. So there are like many different groups of people that they have. So you could actually go in and click on one of these if they wanted to see more inventors, for instance. They could then go here and see an additional list. I wanted to show you this just because if you've got maybe a more advanced upper level, elementary, middle, high, that want a little bit more options for their research, these are available. But also notice this is very familiar now because this is going to look the same way in your biography, your opposing viewpoints, and in your Gale elementary. So they're going to be able to have those same options when they open up one of their biographies or lists there. So if we click on this resource for Alexander Graham Bell, they're going to be able to do the same send feature, the same cite feature, so they can get used to that same format as they kind of go through school there, go up the upper levels. I'm going to pause for a second here, go back to chat, link to evaluate. Oh, thank you for adding that, that link. Sharing about our systems, few resources, free credible sites. Okay. So we have here within this piece, that's something that you can do that's a little bit more advanced. But another part that I wanted to show you all is our Learn 360, because this is really relevant for no matter really what age group in youth services that you're serving, pre-K through 12th grade. When you first enter into this, you're going to be searching pre-K through 12th. You can go to the Smart menu on the top left and go ahead and limit to elementary K through 5 if you want to only see those resources, or you can do that limiting later once you type in a search or view something. But if you have a student here or a parent, maybe they're wanting storybooks for story time. There are some great featured elementary level videos that are available there. And I'm just going to scroll through these to show you some of the fun facts and story time pieces that they have here. We have the Reading Rainbow videos, the Magic School Bus, the Sesame Streets, some for their early learners. And this might be helpful for those that are actually, you know, maybe they have a 7th grader that's come in to get some help from you, but it would be nice if they had something they could do for their 1st grader while they're waiting. And these would be some videos and things you could show there. So you see that there are also maps and flags. So if they are studying a particular area, there are maps and flags that are printable there. There are interactive games here for the elementary level. And I'm going to show you the videos here on the left. The easiest way for you as a librarian to tell what is here without having to just scroll through the playlist, which the patrons like to do that, but for your purpose, you know, you kind of want to get in and out and see what's here. So the browse subjects that you find here is going to quickly let you see what videos and interactives are available there for the mathematics, the science, the different topics. If you have people that are maybe learning American Sign Language, I know Library Development has put on several of those kinds of interactive webinars for the public libraries. There's American Sign Language videos, learning Spanish and other languages. So that's something that can be helpful for you too if you have parents that are interested in that, or if they're children that you're serving are studying those in school, those videos as well. And you can also see there are videos just for activities and other kinds of things that supplement different activities that you might be doing in the library. Here, for instance, like the origami videos here that are available. And you can see when you click on any one of the videos, there are options there also for sharing. So you can share or email links to these here. So you can actually share a link by email so that someone could actually come in and view this from home. Like if you're maybe doing virtual assistance with a student, there's also download options that you see where they can actually download it to their device, just download that MP4. So there are a lot of things there that you're going to be able to find that support all kinds of learning there as well. And it looks like we're kind of running out of time here on covering some of these. If you have any questions there of anything that you've seen, certainly put that in chat. I'm going to actually follow up this training to you. I'm going to actually ask Rebecca to send you a little follow-up sheet that will be some challenges for you to be able to get in and play with these more. It's kind of different when you're just trying to maybe look through databases and get familiar with them. But if you actually have some interactive pieces there that you're able to kind of go with, like the scenarios. So I can give you like a little set of scenarios of questions you might get that kind of make it a little bit more interactive for you to kind of get your hands wet with these resources. Let me see if I can close out of that piece and just take us back. I'm going to actually open up now. Is actually trying to get in here so that we could open up. If you all would like to ask any questions by microphone there, it is so much easier to do it that way. Rebecca, are you able to unmute everybody? I'm not really able to. I'm not able to actually.
Let me see. They should be. If someone wants to ask a question, they should be able to unmute themselves.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes, they are able to do that.
Yeah, so if any of you would like to ask questions or add additional pieces there, I'm going to give Rebecca that follow-up sheet to send out to all of you. In fact, anybody that registered, even if they didn't attend today, because that will kind of get your feet wet with like scenarios about a parent is asking for this or a young child needs this. That will kind of give you a chance to interact with the databases and have a really good toolkit to be able to work moving forward.
No, that was wonderful, Linda. Thank you very much. So what kinds of questions does anybody have? Or feel free, sometimes it's hard when you're on the spot. So you can always email Linda or myself afterwards if something comes up or as you're working through the sheets and a question comes up. Don't ever hesitate to do that.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey, okay, so I've had a couple of teachers or actually librarians out in the schools email us, and one I got today, and they mentioned about them wanting to be able to get what they're asking about library cards, and I know what to tell them about that, but they want to get like on Overdrive, and this is an elementary school, but there's not a lot of stuff on Overdrive for elementary. So I was like, I might need to bring up to her Discus again, because I would think that the elementary school librarians would know about Discus, but do they know enough to know that they've got all that under their fingertips? I don't know. So that's what I want to make sure that I get to my school district and let them know, kind of tell them, I don't know, like bring it forth again, Discus, and try to get them familiar with it. Do they have to have those?
Books is a great resource.
Yeah.
Julie, do you guys have Hoopla? Because Hoopla has a lot of children's materials in it.
I do not think so. I'll have to ask Robert.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out.
Subscription service like Overdrive, so I wasn't sure.
See, that's what we were trying to figure out. Is there something, because Scholastic has something called BookFlix.
Yep.
And we were looking at that to maybe try to help out the kids that can't come to the library and get here. And so I sent out a link to some of the reading coaches for them to see what would, if they liked it, you know, and things like that. But I think, and because I know a lot of my teachers, when I was out in the school, we used Tumble Books, Brain Pop, those were used over and over again. We really enjoy those. So I just wanted to give them something different.
Mm-hmm.
But do they have to have the password and stuff to be able to get in Discus? Because of course, you know, here I am at the library and getting in with no, I don't have to put in all that. But do they have to do that there at the school, or will the kids have to do that at home on their Chromebooks?
That's a great question. Actually, when they're at school, they have seamless access because we have all the IP addresses for the tools at, you know, the computers. When they are at home on a mobile device, smartphone, laptop, anything else, they will need to have the Discus username and password. Yes, that's a very good question there. Even like if you're actually on the Discus site and you're sharing those email links to a parent that I showed you, they would actually need to log in. So they'll click on the link, but they'll need to log in with the Discus username and password to access that from their email as well.
Is that something that goes out to the librarians at the school?
Yeah,
yes. Yes, we have on our mobilized lists, we have we distribute them to all levels, academic. They're the public library contact, the Discus contact at each public library, school district, and we also send them out to the media specialist supervisors as well. Yeah. And we do have bookmarks available. We are just now beginning our process of working with a lot of our promotional items, but we have that. We also have a sheet. Actually, I can send this to Rebecca. It's a PDF file that is just the username and password. They can't obviously be posted to websites or sent on the distribution list, but you can certainly send that out to parents, to teachers, because they could print it out and have it handy, you know, on the refrigerator or next to their children's computers. Yeah, I really appreciate you asking about that. The other thing I wanted to mention when you were talking about, we were actually reviewing that BookFlix as well at the Discus office. We're trying to review all kinds of ebooks because that's the big demand that we have now. Also, the Tumble Math books that we were given the free access to through August, that's something else that is on the radar to try to get our own subscription. So we haven't gotten confirmation on any of the, you know, the Tutor extension or the Tumble Math, but that's another set of books that has been is on the table there to add. I wanted to mention too the on the elementary links to the library, there is the primary search ebook collection. That is a new ebook collection that was just added. I guess it was this spring actually. It's primary search ebook collection, and they're more there, you know, the children's age levels. So they're not going to be like the little read aloud storybooks, but they're going to be a whole different set of ebooks that they could use there as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. So Rebecca has put the little feedback piece in the chat there for you. We definitely want your feedback. The more that we can communicate with you and know your needs, know your expectations, you know, what you liked, what you didn't like, what helped you, that really helps us to improve what we provide to you. But also, again, like she said, if you want to email me, Elle Heimberger at State Library, or you just want to email the Discus office in general with, content questions, any kind of question, we'll be glad to, to filter those questions and help you out.
I think I spelled your email correctly. I just put that in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.